Edu and Arteta have come out once again to speak to us. They have come down from upon high to inform us of how they have felt post the transfer window shutting foreign-wise, of course, with the championship window still open until October 16th. But what this has done is it has highlighted once again the increased level of communication going on between the club and us as fans. And to that, I have to congratulate them. But what we're going to do in today's show is we're going to have a look at what they've said and we're going to break it all down. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series show in which we react to the latest Arsenal news and break it down and have a chat with you guys in our live section as well. A little bit of personal news to update you. I did have a test the other day and this morning I was notified that I came back as negative. So in terms of a personal level, very happy with that. However, whatever this is, I'm still not 100% over it. I've still got a bit of a persistent cough. So bear with me if I need to take a couple of sips of my drink as we do this. This is live, as it always is. So live viewing is always going to have its issues, but yeah, it's I'm going to be coughing at some point, I'm sure. So we'll see how we go as we get through this, because there's a lot to cover. There's a lot to talk through in today's show, and of course, I want to get all of your thoughts as well, for sure. Rodney says, so is this a tactical breakdown on an interview? I mean, if you want to look at it that way, kind of. We're going to look into some tactics and some formations and stuff. So maybe, in a way, it is. But we are obviously raw reacting to the news. So there were two interviews put out on Arsenal.com, and you can check both of those interviews out. They're really, really good interviews with Edu and with Arteta. They're on Arsenal.com. I'm not going to repeat what they've said because you can go over to the website and check them out, and they're really, really fantastic interviews, so you should do. But I'm going to talk about some of the points of what they've said. I'm not going to talk about them in the order that they said them because I want to talk about some things in a little bit more detail than others. And we're going to start off by talking about Edu's interview and speaking specifically about some of the things that he said and looking into the intricacies of some of the reactions to that and the impacts of that and what that will mean. Now, what I want to start with is maybe something that not a lot of people wanted to start with, because there's a lot to talk about with Partey, and we're going to come on to that. But I want to talk about Martinez, first of all. Martinez left the club for Aston Villa. And usually what happens is when you see an Arsenal player leave, there's a little thing on the website thanking them for their time at the club, and then they kind of move on. And that's not what happened. And I loved watching Edu and listening to Edu talk about Martinez, about what he had to say about the player, about the process that went through, about he went into the intricacies of the conversations that went on between himself, the goalkeepers, how it would work out. And it seemed that at one point, it did look as if Martinez would be here for the season, and there would be a competition between the two goalkeepers as to who would be number one and number two. Martinez always wanted to be number one. That is well documented. And to the point at which Aston Villa came in, it looked like they were going to do that. They were going to be competing for that number one spot. The club couldn't promise Martinez the number one spot because we have Leno. And Leno is still a top quality goalkeeper. We've seen that in games this season. We've seen that away against Liverpool in the cup game. He is still a top goalkeeper. And he hasn't stopped being a top goalkeeper, no matter what some people say. So it's really interesting that he spoke about the process and was very open and honest about that. And one thing I want to touch on before I go into some of the other stuff about it is that there are a lot of conglomerations of people on social media, different groups, protest groups, different movements that have continuously criticised the lack of sort of communication between the club, the openness, the honesty, the point where we're at AGMs, and at those AGMs, questions are vetted before they're asked. Some people can get a bit cheeky and try and ask questions that aren't vetted, and expectantly you don't get a very clear response. What I have ironically seen is ever since the sort of the takeover, the full takeover of Stan Kroenke, no matter what you think of that, one thing that can't be denied is that we've seen a better communication line between the club and us as fans. I think that's partly to do with everything is becoming a lot more social. Everything is becoming a lot more connected. I think Arsenal and the board and the fact that we've got the likes of Edu and Arteta, who are a very young group, and Josh Kroenke himself, of course, as well. Vinay as well is very young. And I think they kind of appreciate the fact that everything is now online. Everything needs to be done through communicating through social media, needs to be done through communicating through every kind of avenue possible. And I'm still kind of waiting for a lot of people that have criticised the club for not being as communicative as they could to come out and say something. I'm just going to go and I'm speaking about quite a few people, but specifically there is one side of things. The We Care Do You account. Now, We Care Do You was something that I actually got involved with myself. Okay, I was involved. I was in a group. I was in a chat with a lot of the people on it. At one point, I was invited to it by Hugh Wizzy, who you know obviously very well, and I supported it at the time when it came out because I wanted to see the Kroenkes and the ownership and the board show more care. Show more care in the team, show more care in the club, show more care in the fan base. I wanted to see that. And I know that there would have been a lot of you guys as well that may have put your own support and your own video towards the movement. And there was a lot of big, high profile groups and podcasts and personalities and YouTubers and just fans in general, the likes of Arsblog, etc. And since what we've seen of the club investing, that we've now known from the Athletic, etc., that this club is communicating, that this club is caring, that the likes of the Kroenkes have invested now, have put money into the club to get Partey across the line. They put money into the club to get the Pepe deal going. They got the green, Raul Sanyehi, etc., got the green light from the ownership to get that deal done at £72 million. Even though it was staggered, they had to get the green light to get that deal done. And it's a real shame that we've still not seen a response from that side of things. I personally cut ties with it. I left that side of things. I wasn't happy with some of the stuff that was being said. I wasn't happy with some of the stuff that was said about other people who had actually supported the movement, and I left. I'm not going to go into any more detail about that reasons because it would be unprofessional. But I'm not happy about what happened there. And to be honest, I'm not happy about how things have proceeded since that point. And the fact that there has been no communication from that. How ironic that there's been no communication from that side of things to now say, you know what, we really pressed for this. A lot of fans got involved. A lot of fans really supported that movement because they want the club to show that they care about us as a fan base. They want to show that they care by helping this club to progress. And we've now seen that happen, and it's complete radio silence. And for me, from a personal side, I can't carry on with that. I can't commit to that and continue to do that and commit to that sort of movement because I don't believe in it anymore. It's as simple as that. And I have to turn around and give a right round of applause to the club for really turning around and really making an effort to connect with us as fans. So that's kind of, I know I've spent a little bit longer than I should have done, but I wanted to highlight and I wanted to thank the club for actually being more communicative with the fan base. And I think that's kind of highlighted in the bit talking about Emi Martinez, how clear they were with us, how open they were and how honest they were with us as a fan base of how that situation evolved and happened. And the fact that Emi Martinez was courted by Aston Villa, and Edu talks to us as fans about that process. He talks about how Emi wanted to get more minutes and they were like, you know what? Yeah. And so they allowed him to leave and they got a very nice fee for that situation as well. So I was very happy to hear about the Emi Martinez situation and how that happened. He also spoke about other departures like Torreira, like Guendouzi. And he said about how, I don't really want to repeat what he was saying because I can't want to react to that news, but I was very happy to hear that he spoke about those two as still Arsenal players, that there is a future for those Arsenal players, that they are still seen as Arsenal players, even with the difficulties of Guendouzi, that they're still seen in that way. He also talked about the next point is the foreign quota, is the fact that there is only 17 players allowed in the Arsenal team. And what was really interesting is that he said that conversations have taken place between himself, Arteta, and the agents and the players of the players that are not going to be included. It's a really big challenge to talk to players that are not going to be included. Now, from the looks of things, Mesut Ozil and Socrates have not been included in the Europa League squad. Now, we're still awaiting the Premier League squad side of things, but the Europa League squad, we are still yet to hear of. We now are in the know that Mesut Ozil and Socrates aren't involved in that. Whether that then carries across to the Premier League squad, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I thought it was very, very interesting that they addressed that and they talked about it, knowing full well that we would find out who those players were and that they have addressed that. So I thought that was also very good. And it was good that they were honest and open about it and that they said, this has happened. They've had conversations. The player is aware of that. And that would have also happened before we've seen the training videos of Mesut Ozil looking all happy-clappy and fist-bumping Arteta. So that's great as well. Lewis, thank you ever so much for the super chat, mate. He says, Tom, I'll be a member soon. Don't always agree with you, but your content is great and thought your interview of Alvaro Romeo was amazing. Thank you, Lewis. And you don't have to agree with me of everything, mate. This is what this is all about. You have your opinion. I've got my opinion. And as long as we talk to each other in a respectable way and we're on the same sort of level-headed nature, I've got all the time of day for people like you, Lewis. So thank you very much. So the next point that I wanted to talk about was, I think that we can't really talk about much else without going into Partey. Bear with me a sec. Oh, stave off the cough. So Thomas Partey was obviously someone that we know was linked to Arsenal for a long, long time, a really long time. And Edu addressed that. He said that if we could see his plan from 6-7 months ago, we would have seen that Thomas Partey was on that list of players. Now, my reaction to that is that we know that Arsenal really, really pushed to sign Houssem Aouar at the end of the window. We know that. You couldn't hide it because of how public Jean-Michel Aulas, the Lyon president, made all of that process. You couldn't hide it either because just like you, speaking directly to you, you were scrolling through social media just like I was, refreshing every 5 seconds, desperate, craving a little bit of information, something extra, something new, waiting for James Benji to tweet, waiting for the Bell to tweet, waiting for Fab to tweet, waiting for someone to give us the information that we were so desperately yearning for. And you can't hide that as a club because information is going to get out because there is such a cry for that information. And there's a lot of publicity that goes with that information as well. So with journalists, you want to get that scoop. Speaking as someone who is now very new and in the field, I've seen the reaction to just getting an exclusive bit of information. When I put out the interview that I did with Robin Asterhead, who is the former coach of Nikolai Moller, who is Arsenal's new Swedish 18-year-old under-23 striker, people go mad for it. It was crazy. The support for that article and the support for the video that was with it was madness. And a massive thank you to everyone. And it's true, is that if you get a bit of exclusive information, a little bit of something that's just yours, special, unique, only that you were able to put out, and you're the first one to get that bit of information, people go wild for it. And so there is naturally, everyone is trying to get the latest bit of information. And so you can't hide any transfers. You can't hide anything anywhere near as much as you could do 10, 15, definitely 20 years ago. And in a way, it's great for fans to have that much sort of connection with it. And in a way, the transfer window kind of becomes, in a way, an extended game of football. Because in that game, in that 90 minutes, we're so committed and we're so focused, hyper-focused on everything in that game, and we react to it or emotionally, and every part of our body is fully committed to that. And we get like that now with the transfer window. You saw me put out a video on the day that we found out that Houssem Aouar wasn't going to be signing for the club. Yes, I was ill. Yes, I felt like you know what. But at the end of the day, I was very, very down, very, very judgmental and very, very reactionary. And that's why the show is called Raw Reactions at the end of the day. And then I did the next day with Owen and with Jared and with Lee Judges and the difference in my tone and the difference in my behaviour after it looked like we were going to sign Thomas Partey was night and day. It was crazy because we're just so invested in this thing that we love and that thing called Arsenal and in the transfer window and the rumours and just wanting to get a bit more information that you can't hide this information. And so going back to the original point, because I'm aware I've gone off on a bit of a tangent now, but going back to the original point that Edu brought up, that Thomas Partey was on his plan 6-7 months ago. I don't doubt that. But what I think is what happened is that the club knew that they had a certain amount of finances. They wanted to get Partey. They couldn't get Partey because Atletico only wanted the release clause. This is complete conjecture and a theory, okay? So don't take what I'm saying as gospel. It's just my opinion. They couldn't get Partey originally because the release clause was the only way you could get it. They tried to negotiate the price down, but they couldn't. Houssem Aouar was also a target of Arteta, was probably on the list of players that they put as a plan, the players that they wanted, and maybe they'll revisit that at a later time. Maybe. But then we look at what happened with Aouar. They wanted Aouar. They looked like they could get Aouar at a cheaper price and probably at a staggered payment structure similar to the Pepe deal in comparison to Partey, whose release clause had to be paid in complete full with whatever additions or whatever was going to go with it. Tax, I'm not sure. I'm unclear about that side of things. But they invested £45 million, or they had to invest £45 million to get him. Aouar could have been cheaper. And also, we still weren't sure what players were going to leave. We still didn't know if Kolasinac was going to go, if Socrates was going to go, if Mustafi was going to go. We didn't know. The club didn't know because it was so difficult to try and move players on because no one had the money. No one wanted to spend any money. No one wanted to spend more than they usually would. No one wanted to take a risk because taking a risk on players in this window was nigh on impossible and complete madness to do that. If you take a risk on a player in this window and it fails during this pandemic that we're experiencing right now, it would have been massively detrimental to the club. And so they couldn't do that. And so therefore, the club really struggled to sell players. Am I critical of how that happened? No, because I just don't think there was clubs coming in for those guys. And the players and the clubs that were coming in for them were probably just offering loan deals when the club wanted permanent deals. And maybe they were offering them loan deals with very, very low loan fee offers. And the club just weren't willing to accept that. They'd rather keep the player in the squad and use them when they needed to. And you can't really blame them for that. But the reason why then that Aouar fell apart was because Lyon were asking for a fee that Arsenal were just not willing to pay, to the point where the fee was very similar to Thomas Partey. Now we know that Mikel Arteta loves Houssem Aouar. I think that's very, very obvious from the way that we pursued him, from the way that he was liking him at Manchester City. I think that's very, very clear. But when you look at Thomas Partey, the difference with him is that he is a priority target. Edu said in the interview that he prioritised, that he had him on the list 6-7 months ago. And I just think that when they realised they couldn't get any more funds through sales, and I think when they realised that Aouar was going to cost them a very similar amount of money to Partey, they went to the owners and they said, look, there are mere hours left of the window for us to get in a transformative figure at our club. We want Partey. We don't have the funds through sustainment. Is that a word? I don't think it is. Through self-sustaining processes, we do not have the capabilities to go out and sign Thomas Partey. We need you to invest and to help us and to support us and to back the manager the way that you have said that you would, to go out and get Partey. And as Edu said in his interview, they were given the green light by the club to go and do that. And so fantastically, brilliantly, Arsenal were able to go to La Liga very late in the window and say, look, we are willing to pay Thomas Partey's release clause. Here is the deposit of the money. We've already got an agreement going on with Partey's representatives and he's willing to come. This transfer is going to happen. And it did happen. And it's amazing. And that kind of bleeds into the next thing that I want to mention, which is how Arteta spoke about Partey. Arteta, and I guess, Rodney, what you were saying earlier in the chat box about is this a tactical breakdown, is that this is kind of getting onto the more tactical stuff, is that Arteta spoke about how Partey changes what he's able to do. The person interviewing him really pressed him to try and find out effectively what he was going to do with it. Very quick before I go into that, I want to highlight that we've got some fantastic new members join up. First of all, Jimmy22 Gibbo, thank you ever so much for joining up, mate. You've joined a fantastic group of people, as well as John Lennon. David Lennon, sorry about that. Just you see the word Lennon and you instantly go, John, but no. But thank you, David, for signing up twice, it seems. Thank you ever so much. Or maybe you've upgraded in the short. Maybe someone has spent the least amount of time it decided for them to upgrade. Fair play to you. But you've joined a fantastic group of people. Make sure you go onto the community tab. And on that community tab, what you will find is you will find an access to the Discord server if you are an expert member. Join that because it is a fantastic group of people. Expert members in the chat, welcome them. Tell them how good that Discord server is. You get to chat about Arsenal all day long. I even pop in there with some little bits of information. Tell people how spot on I was about the amount of signings we make on deadline day. How many did I say? How many happened? Sometimes I tell people stuff. So yeah, join up with the Discord server, have a look at the extra content, and use the Thomas Partey emoji that you've now got access to as well in the chat. Make sure you're using those emojis in the chat box, guys. So thank you, guys. But anyway, moving on to what I was talking about a second ago with Arteta and formations, is that Thomas Partey enables us to do a lot of things. Thomas Partey means that what we can do is that we can carry on, if we want to, playing 3-4-3. When we come up against those really big opposition like Manchester City, Chelsea, United. I can't remember that team down the road. I don't think they're a big club anyway. The big six, as they're called, what it enables us to do is Partey means that you can still play that system. If you sign Houssem Aouar instead of Partey, you can't. If you want to play Aouar in a 3-4-3, you're not playing him in the two centre midfield positions. You're playing him in the left mid position, which he has done for Lyon previously. He has played left midfield. And you aren't going to play him in the middle two because he's just, in my opinion, not going to do enough defensively. I know he can play deeper, but in a two on their own with no one in front, I don't think you're going to see that from Aouar. Partey, you can see that. But also, he enables you to play him as he's on his own, as a sweeper in a deep position, in a midfield three. You could play him next to a number 6 or next to a number 8 and be sort of someone that drives the ball forward and beats the press and sort of transitions the ball from our defensive third into the offensive third of the other half of the pitch. Or you can play him in sort of a free role, because what you see sometimes for Ghana in his international side, he's actually played with more freedom in a more free-flowing movement up top where he can be a little bit more creative. The people that turn around to me and said that Thomas Partey doesn't help us creatively, I couldn't believe it, because Thomas Partey does help us offensively and creatively. Thomas Partey can be a creative player. What you should do is you should go and listen to the interview I did with Alvaro Romeo, fantastic guest, and thank you so much, Lewis, I think it was, for the super chat. And thank you to all the comments we've had on that video. And Alvaro talks about how his mid-range pass is excellent. Breaking the lines between the middle of the park, finding one of his two strikers when he was at Atleti, of course, finding one of our own strikers, or maybe finding those wide players too, now playing for Arsenal. What Partey enables us, Arteta specifically, to do is play with multiple midfield formations, and it adds quality. I'm also really, really interested to see how he partnerships with Granit Xhaka. Now, there was some information that came out the other day. I can't quite remember who it was. If you're in the chat box and you know who broke this story, who broke this information, but apparently in a conversation between our former head of recruitment, it was like former head scout, Francis Cajigal. He spoke to Partey in a secret meeting in 2018-19, and between the two of them, Partey brought up possible discussions between forming a partnership with Granit Xhaka, that he admired Granit Xhaka and he liked the Swiss midfielder. I mean, it's almost like he's a decent player or something. But he spoke about how he kind of wanted to play with Granit Xhaka, how he kind of wanted to form a connection with him and how he wanted to play with him. And so that's what I'm really interested to see, is that when these two players play together, how that means each of them works. Will this mean that Xhaka can push further forward? Will this mean that Partey becomes more isolated? Will this mean that Granit Xhaka continues very similar that he has done already? Or will this give him the security to be a more fully fledged, free player, to be the passing guy that he can be? I'm also really interested to see what this means for Dani Ceballos. Will this mean that we see Dani Ceballos in a more advanced role in the midfield? Will we see a flat midfield three in a 4-3-3 formation? But the point is that I'm making is that, can you now see how many options that there are for Arteta and the coaching staff to put together different plans, different scenarios, just by having Thomas Partey in the midfield? It's amazing. And that's why I wanted the club to prioritise him over Houssem Aouar. is because it gives the club so much more versatility, so much more option, so much more choice. And also, what's really key is so much more unpredictability to oppositions. Oppositions can often guess what Arsenal are going to do with their current crop of midfielders. And yes, you've got Partey coming in, which means that, yes, you've got to deal with that issue of Partey. But what you can't do is that you might not be able to predict how Arsenal are going to set up, how each midfielder is going to play, what their role is going to be, how the synergy between those players works. And I think that is also really key. Thank you, Canal, for joining up as a member, mate. Really appreciate it. And make sure you check out and you enjoy the exclusive content. And if you become an expert member, make sure you join our Discord server. So that's kind of the bit about Partey. Now, was there anything else that I've missed off my list that I wanted to do? Renewals. Edu talked about renewals and how important it was to get the likes of Aubameyang, get the likes of Martinelli and Saka to sign up to new contracts. Now, he spoke about the fact that he wanted to get that done before the summer. Aubameyang, it didn't happen. It couldn't happen because the way the deal went, the way with the demands of the player, and I think also with the interest from outside of the club, Barcelona, we know there was interest from them. We know they needed a striker. We know that they wanted to get Memphis Depay. It didn't happen. They wanted Eric Garcia as well. It didn't happen. Barcelona have been massively hamstrung by their financial situation and the implications that's been put on them by the poor management from up top. Bartomeu, absolutely ridiculous. There's now over 16,000 votes for the Spanish president to get a referendum to possibly see him leave under a vote of no confidence. And you can see why, because he has run that club into the ground and he's ruined their reputation. You look at the state of La Masia, you look at the way that Ansu Fati is basically coming through as the only real hope. You've got the likes of Ricky Puig in the midfield, who's a fantastic young player, 21 years old, I think he is now, still in the Spanish under-21s team. Really good player. And Ronald Koeman effectively has come out and supposedly, reportedly, we should put, looks like Ricky Puig isn't going to go anywhere in this Barcelona team from the looks of things. He said actually that the reports were, if you read them, that Ricky Puig could end up somewhere else. But what I think is that what you need to look at is that Aubameyang has now signed a contract with Arsenal. He's still turned down a Barcelona side that is still Barcelona. They still have a special knock, as Raul Senyehi would put it. And so that's important. And the fact that he wants to create a legacy at Arsenal and that was sold to him by Arteta goes. What I'd be really interested to know is if Unai Emery was still at the club, and I don't want to make this into an Unai Emery bashing session, but the thing about having someone like Arteta as head coach is that they understand the club. They understand the magnitude of this club. They understand the reputation of this club. And they understand of how to deliver that and to convince players to join, and not only join, but stay, and to build their own legacies at a club that has an amazing history and also has basically a position in the footballing world which stands and sets it apart from so many other clubs. And I think that having Arteta in the team enables us. It enables us to sell our players a journey, sell our players a future, sell our players a story that they can commit to. And so therefore, I think that's a really positive. And also when you've got Edu, you've got Mertesacker, other people that have been ingrained in Arsenal's history at the highest points, at the lowest point, well, maybe not the lowest, but one of the lower points in our history when we dropped out of the Europa Champions League, when we were still competing for top four season upon season with Arteta and Mertesacker, all the way back to the most successful period of our reign as Invincibles under Edu. And the fact that we've now got that ingrained in how our setup works, we can much better sell these stories of glory and legacy to the players that we can hopefully keep at the club. And so that's why it's really important, really, really important to keep players, to keep this historical link with coaches and board members and technical directors and youth coaches and youth presidents. I don't really know what Per Mertesacker's role is, head of the academy, and to keep that ingrained in the team. 100%. I see that there's a chat going on in the chat box about Mainsley. Cash, I see that you're new to the team or new to the chat box. Thank you ever so much. If you've said something about Mainsley and you said it negatively, you're going to get set upon, pal. Because we're all Mainsley lovers here. We love Mainsley. So thank you ever so much to all the members and also the non-members that are constant watchers of the channel and are backing up the Mainsley. Yes. Let's keep the Mainsley hype going. I'm so glad that Mainsley's staying, to be honest. It's a massive coup to keep him here. I can't wait to see his future. And yeah, it's going to be great. It's fine, Cash. Don't worry about it, mate. Everyone makes that mistake when they're new. I love when people drop into the comment sections after videos go live and just correct me and go, excuse me, mate, it's pronounced Ainsley. And yeah, I mean, one day when Ainsley signs his new contract, you know, Arsenal are going to draft me in. We're going to be in the announcement video. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to get my expert members around me, and we're going to go and bring the Mainsley contract to Ainsley Maitland-Niles for him to sign in the announcement video. That's what's going to happen. It's guaranteed, guys. That's what we're building. We're building a story. We're building the story of Mainsley. That's what we're doing. But in general, that kind of rounds off the 2 interviews. There is more stuff. Please do go onto the Arsenal.com website and watch the 2 interviews if you haven't already. They are absolutely fantastic. So go check them out. But again, I want to highlight, before I wrap up, and praise the club for increasing the level of communication between themselves and us as fans. And that needs to be credited. So if you have a spare 5 minutes, if you've criticised the club in the past and you're thinking, you know what, things are changing, go onto social media at Arsenal and just go, thank you, guys. Thank you for adding that extra bit of communication. Thank you for being more open and honest with us. Thank you for telling us how it is. Thank you for telling us things that go on inside it, because we have been yearning for ages to try and get this communication, to stop the club being so secretive. There are elements that needs to remain secret, and I understand that. Transfers, definitely. Press conferences, you can press Arteta all you like for some information about a player that's not ours yet. He's not going to tell you, but press on all you like. But once it's happened, once the transfer window's over, keep this content coming. Keep telling us what's going on. Keep us informed with the academy. Keep us informed with everything that you're trying to do to make the club better. We want to know, because that connection between the club and the fans has been lacking for such a long time, and we've needed to get it back. And I genuinely feel like it's a bit down to myself and other content creators to create content that's linked and made those fans feel like they're talking about the club more publicly. And we take on that responsibility, and we're happy to do that. But it's fantastic to see that the club are now coming out and being more open with us. So there you go. Daniel Roberts says, can you make a Jobaslai custom emoji? You know what's quite funny is that, I don't know if you've seen this, but the club has I've seen James Benge tweet it. I've seen Fabrizio Romano on his podcast talk about it. But apparently Mr. Jobaslai is on Arsenal's list, which just seems insane. And then what's even funnier is that Patson Daka, who is the Zambian striker at Red Bull Salzburg as well, amazing talent. You need to check him out. And also, I'm going to have to do a tactical breakdown on him. I am talking to Wolfgang, who is the Austrian and German head researcher at Football Manager, about doing a tactical breakdown on Patson Daka. So I'm looking forward to doing that in the near future. But yeah, they must be tuning in. They have to be tuning in. There's no way they have watched one of our tactical breakdowns and gone, you know what, this Jobaslai guy seems a little bit nice. Maybe we should have a look at him. So, yeah. But I'd say if you haven't checked out the tactical breakdowns on the players that we've been looking at, Cash, you're a new viewer, mate. Thank you. And there's over 500 of you watching live right now, and I hope you're dropping likes on the video and you appreciate the breakdowns and everything. But I just want to say a massive thank you to you guys again for continuously tuning in. I know I haven't been able to do much chat interaction with today's show. There was a lot of information to talk about. But don't worry, there's going to be lots more chances to do that. There's going to be lots more content coming up. I was speaking to Andrew from Arsblog today. We're hopefully going to have another live chat with you guys on the channel very, very soon. Alvaro Romeo, of course, has come on a couple of times now on the channel. Really appreciate your feedback. Go and tweet him at Alvaro_Romeo and tell him how fantastic he was on the channel. Tell him thank you for coming onto the channel and that we appreciate his time, because he was great, and he was great. James Benge hopefully should be back as well. Got some chats going on with him. And of course, I'll be keeping running over the articles and running you information and news over at 101 Great Goals. Make sure you go and check those out. If you haven't checked it out already, we did an exclusive interview with Nikolai Moller's former under-19s coach at FC Molde, or FF Molde, or Molde FF, I should say. Sorry, Swedish listeners out there. And Graham Hunter, Archie. Yes, we did an interview with Graham Hunter talking about Thomas Partey in lots of detail too. I can try and get Graham back on as always. He's always been very open and honest with me about his time and what he's able to do, and he's been very generous with the time that he's given us in the past, because he's a very, very busy man. Chris says, let's get Charles Watts on the show. Want to know how the Partey deal unfolded from his perspective. Charles Watts is definitely someone that I'd love to speak to. And I mean, the only way that we can get people on the channel is by you guys helping us. So if you'd like to see Charles Watts on the show, drop him a tweet, tag me in it, tag him in it, get us. Let's try and sort something out. So one of the biggest reasons we're able to do these shows is because you guys ask for them, and hopefully we can get them. I've realised how dark it's got since I started today's show. I'm going to be wrapping up any second. Jimmy, great to be part of the TGT family. It's a great pleasure to have you join us, mate. Really, really is. Gouda Seb says AFC bell. Oh, I think you might have struggled to get the bell on. I'm not sure whether he's going to be around doing interviews or not, but let's tweet him. Come on the Gouda Talk, at the Gouda Talk TV. It's right there at the top of your screen. Go tell him. Amir Rao says, how good is wreckage? Amir, I am chasing that. I am doing everything. I'm emailing. I am chasing up people at Hertha. I am trying to find someone that can help me out to tell me how good wreckage is. I'm going to try and get you the inside scoop. I'm doing everything I can. And not only him, but Joel Idaho, of course, the young guy that joined us from Ajax. I'm trying to follow up some leads on that. Eventually, I'm hoping to get you some content on those guys. I don't just want to throw out a bit of content, basically me just looking at some tactical videos. I want to get you guys the best insight possible, like I did with Nikolai Moller. So I will try and get back to you on that. I want to get some really good information if I can on those guys. I've been able to get some information for some bloggers around Hertha Berlin, but I want to get some video content for you guys as well. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Thank you so much. I see that a lot of you guys are always asking me questions. If you think that I should be doing some maybe Q&A shows, then maybe we'll try and do that, and I'll try and do that. If you think you'd enjoy that sort of thing, then let me know. I'm always up for the feedback. You know, if you put a comment on the video, I respond to pretty much everyone, especially when it's positive. There's some stuff I miss, I just don't have time to talk about, but thank you so much for the continued support. I really appreciate it. Honestly, you guys have helped me follow this dream of becoming a journalist, which is happening in full time very soon. I'm absolutely buzzing. I can't wait for it. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, and you guys have helped me get there. Members, if you haven't joined up to the Discord, please join the Discord server. You have to be an expert member, but please do that. Over the next week, I'm going to be in the Discord server asking expert members to come on the show, to do some expert members podcast. I want to get more of you guys on. I want to talk to you guys because the people that we've had on have been amazing. Amazing. Like, you look at Owen Young. He came onto an expert members pod. He's now a regular. He's now a TGT writer. And writers as well. I want more writers. I want to get people getting their own articles out on the website as well. Getting some people on doing guest pieces as well. Amazing stuff. So if you want to join us, if you want to get involved, if you want to get on the show, if you want to talk to me and some of the regs, then make sure you join the Discord server, because I'm going to be putting all of the expert member appearance opportunities into the Discord server. So that's where it's going to be. Hopefully one over the weekend. Hopefully one next week as well. We'll see how it goes. But it's been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to speak to you guys, as it always is. I can't wait to get you guys some new content. I can't wait to give you the latest scoop on the players. I can't wait to give you the latest insight and tactical breakdown. I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the arse.